All right, all right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for having me, everybody. So yes, I'll introduce myself, then I'll introduce the session, and we'll walk through. There's some interaction as well, so hopefully everyone can participate in some fashion. If you can't use the voting on Mural, just yell it out or put it in the chat. Anything's fine. Yeah, I'm Scott Sampson. I'm a Scrum Master. I work currently for a fintech in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area. I've been a Scrum Master for a number of years, been in IT for about probably about 13 years now in various roles. Scrum Master, Project Manager, Business Systems Analyst way back in the day. So kind of come up through the ranks in that regard. And I'm just a huge Agile fan and Scrum Master fan, and I'm always interested in trying to help others improve the way they work, especially around Scrum Mastery and Agile coaching. So that's what I'm hoping to share today. So yes, we're here to talk about the Scrum Master relationship value stream. So the learning objectives for today will be, who are they? Like, who is that for in my mind, and then for you as well? It could be a little bit different depending on where you are and who you're working with. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about how to approach them and what you can discuss with them, what you should ask about, and then also building the relationships with this. I'm calling them the Smurfs. They are not blue. They're not from the 80s. So I did not steal that, although it's very similar to something else you might recognize. All right. So any questions before we get started? Can everybody, let me actually, I don't think I'm sharing yet, correct? So let me share my screen.
I've been pasting the Mural link in the chat window while everybody's been talking. So if you can log into the Mural link if you haven't already done that.
All right, so we've already talked about me. We've talked about the learning objectives. So let's move forward. So I'm just going to reveal each topic as we go. So I thought in talking about the Scrum Master's relationship value stream that we should kind of level set and talk about what a value stream is in general. People on this call and this chat might know what this is already, but just to review, you can see here a value stream is a set of actions basically from the customer request and receiving that. Some processing involved there by a company or department, and then fulfilling that request. So, delivering value from the initial request to the end of the process there. And I lifted some of that from Wikipedia, as you can see. But basically just delivering value to the customer. So I just wanted to make sure we talked about that because that'll be important. So in daily Scrum, I know that a lot of folks, with the daily Scrum, developers share their updates. I know that's not always a great way to say that. It's a little exclamation point there, or their progress, or their sprint goal, or whatever they want to talk about in the Scrum. Insert your team's approach here. So that happens pretty much regularly during the Scrum. And the question I have for the audience is actually a couple questions. Is it enough to be talking to just your developers, like in Scrum? If they're happy, won't your company be putting out the best products? If you're taking care of the development team, well, I won't say development team, I'll say developers themselves. Isn't that enough, or is there more? Are there more folks that you should be speaking to try to create value for the customer and your company?
I believe it is more than
All
the
right.
developers.
Okay. Thank you for participating. I see a couple items in the chat. Let me just see if that's anything. Okay. So moving along. Thank you for that. Yes, feel free to shout it out. Okay. So first informal poll of the presentation by show of emoji, thumbs up or thumbs down. Who in the audience here today regularly speaks to anyone else on the development team besides the developers in Scrum? So let me set this up, and then you can vote on it by clicking on the icons or just put it in chat. That's fine. So let me try to do this here. Okay. So see, for those that have logged in, see if you can go in and either click on the thumbs up or thumbs down to say, hey, I do or I do not talk to anyone outside of the developers in their daily roles.
I was able to vote.
Alrighty, awesome. Ooh, it's working. Yes. Wait, the votes are going.
Power of mural.
There are, Marcy. I say it's just you've done something and made all of this work because you're the mural
Some
expert.
sort of magic, huh?
Good karma. And if for some reason you can't get into mural to vote, just put it in the chat or yell it out. It's okay. I'll give everybody another maybe 20 seconds to vote. I see the votes keep fluctuating from 7 to maybe 5. All right, I'm going to end the voting session. So let's see what we have. 13 votes. All right. Let's see.
Well, it doesn't show us which one we clicked on, huh?
Interesting. All right. Let me see if I can pull that up somehow. Yeah, kind of put it in the middle, which is a little bit interesting. I was not doing that for me earlier, but it looks like maybe it's more that folks do talk to folks outside of the development team. Am I reading that right?
Got it. Yeah, looks like it's on the corner of that box, huh?
On the corner of the thumbs up. All right, awesome. Well, that's good. That's good news, and that's good to know. All right, so let's move on. Hi, Kyle. Hi, G. Will. Okay. So my thought is on this situation, this topic is that, if you are only speaking to one section of the Scrum Master's relationship value stream, that you could be missing opportunities to deliver value to your customers. You could be missing opportunities to develop your team and yourself. So if you are this red arrow here, and this is where your focus is, during Scrum and then outside of Scrum in your day-to-day, you could be missing out potentially on opportunities to improve everything and kind of raise all boats, if you will. All right, let's do another poll. So given what we've talked about already, and what a value stream is, what I'm proposing is at least what you can see, what the Scrum Master's relationship value stream is so far. Who do you think you should talk to if it's even if it's in addition to folks that you're already talking to besides the developers, or if you were to think about it in your mind and say, hey, if I could establish a relationship with that group, that would be very beneficial to the team and myself and them as well. So I'm going to open this up once again for voting. Just give me one moment. And then you can click on any icon you see there for different roles, different positions.
How many votes are we gonna get? Do I have to pick?
I'll give the group 2 votes.
Oh, man.
So it was one.
Pick my
It was
favorite
one.
2 out of this group.
All right, so let me see here. Let me get this moved over. It looks like should be working. Let me start the voting. And go ahead and vote if you can on any of those groups. Who you think you might want to include in your communications day to day to improve everything, team-wise, yourself-wise.
Oh, I
All
can't.
right. I see 12, 13, 12. I see people voting. It's working. I'll give it 10 more seconds. And we'll see what we have. And there's no right or wrong answer here. This is just something for you to think about. All right, I'm going to end the voting session. End session for everybody. And I'll get rid of this screen. All right, so it looks like maybe the customer is the top one, product manager with 10 votes, nice. Some other folks, sales, CEO, QA testers, awesome. All right, we'll keep that in mind as we move forward. So let's talk about who, at least I initially think, are the Smurfs, members of the Scrum Master Relationship Value Stream. Whoever voted on maybe talking to the product owners product group, you were correct in my mind. So yeah, product is first, and I have the product manager listed. And what I've tried to do is for each group and role within each group is I've tried to come up with a list of things that you can approach them about, because some of these things may not be top of mind, but there are a lot of topics that all of these different groups handle across these departments that impact your delivery across what you're trying to do as a Scrum Master, right? And so I've tried to list those out comprehensively. I'm sure there's more, but just to give everybody an idea of what you can approach these folks with. So first up with the product manager, of course, they're thinking about a ton of things during their day, and they may be some of the most, the hardest folks to try to get a regular meeting with. But I think if you bring some of these topics to them and say, and ask how you can help them, it would be beneficial. So planning, obviously goals, sprint, quarter, and year. They're always looking at their roadmap, what's upcoming, how are they going to meet their goals. They might be involved with user feedback and gathering that and incorporating that into the product. You can talk to them about prioritization, about their backlog, also items on the roadmap, what comes first, what's the demand, and what do they use to prioritize items, features, etc. One thing I like to talk to them about is, what's their communication like with the executive team, the CEO, the management team at the top of the house, the C-suite. How does that go? How much input do they have back and forth? And then also, how is their communication with the development team, and are they involved with any customer conversations as well? Or is that primarily the sales team and they get their information from those folks? And then collaboration across the board. Do they talk to other departments across your company? Yes, the dev team, but hey, are they talking to marketing, sales, customer support, customer care, those groups? So those are some topics that you can talk to those folks about, and they have a broad range of things that they are involved with. And if anybody has any questions as we go, feel free to yell out. And if I miss anything in the chat, just let me know, please. So of course, there's more to the product team than just the product manager, the product owner as well. This is the person that's going to be, of course, on the ground with you as the Scrum Master or Agile coach, kind of helping to plan out the backlog and how they prioritize and time that. They might be writing user stories or even requirements and acceptance criteria. So how are they doing that? What do they take into consideration? Of course, sprint planning. Go ahead.
We have one person in the chat who asked if they could get a high level difference between product manager and product owner. So I think you started that. You just gave a good description of product owner. I don't know if you want to go back and
sure, of course.
Product manager then.
Of course. So the product manager, I would say, is kind of the top of the house for your product team that you're aligned with as a Scrum Master. Those folks are going to be working with the executive team to help lay out the roadmap for your product across maybe a number of months, quarter, maybe a year. So they're kind of like the product, for lack of a better term, product executive that forms the goals and the vision maybe for the year for the product, getting that from the executive team and then working with their product owner and their product analyst underneath them to execute that vision. Does that make sense to who asked? Brian, I think it's Brian. And if anybody else,
I've seen both roles filled, and I just wondered what we were considering right now.
got it. If anybody else has any
Thank you.
feedback, let me know. I'm happy to hear. So like I was saying, like, and the product owner will be trying to help the product manager execute that vision by doing all these, I would say, more tactical things, aligned with the Scrum Master regarding sprint planning, estimation, the approach for sprint planning, coming up with the sprint goals for each sprint to keep the team focused on what they're trying to accomplish so they can get to the larger goals for the product. Retrospectives, does the product owner attend retrospectives? How do they handle, or how do they use the feedback that comes out of retrospectives from the team? Do they implement it? And then here's product vision down at the bottom. Obviously, they're aware of the product vision given their relationship with the product manager. So you could always talk to them about that as well and get their input and their insights there and how you can help. So the approach for each one of these groups is also how you can help them with these items. That's kind of the focus from the Scrum Master and expanding your role. Sticking with the product team, product analyst. There are business systems analysts out there, product analysts. Of course, they're also involved with working with the product manager and product owner and maybe other teams, sales, customer care in regards to, and maybe the customer directly and hopefully gathering requirements from them, providing analysis, doing user research to see how the customer might want to use the product in the future. How do they do that? What methods and techniques do they use? They could be doing some data analysis in the background. And also what relationships do they have and what do those look like with, with their own team, the dev team and other stakeholders, like I mentioned, do they talk to marketing, sales, the executive team, anybody else? I think diving into these with the product analysts can really enlighten how your company functions, and you can also try to maybe coach them on things that they could and help them with things that they're trying to accomplish in their role as a product analyst. Okay, moving along. Quality assurance is the next group of SMERVs, part of the value stream. I started here with, of course, the top of the house once again for that group, quality assurance management. This is a group that I find this area very interesting, the testing groups, and talking with them and finding out what they do. Usually underappreciated, but a key part of the Scrum Master's relationship value stream. So when talking to the QA manager or QA director or directors, you could talk to them about, metrics. How are they defining success? How are they, collecting the metrics? Test automation. What do they have in place? What do they plan on putting in place for automation to save time for their teams? Testing strategies, so you can see those here. Regression, acceptance, exploratory testing. Are they doing any or all of those, and what's that look like? How successful is it? How can you help there? Test environments, always it could be a touchy subject there with getting test environments that function properly or are available. So do they have the test environments they need? How are they working? And then that speaks to stability and efficiency. And then defect management. How are they identifying defects when they come their way? How does that come back to the team? How are they working with the developers to resolve defects? And how are they, prioritized and resolved? Any questions so far? Okay. And then, of course, you have the quality assurance testers. These folks you'll be working with pretty much directly as a Scrum Master. Regarding, and you can be asking them about their process. How do they approach testing? And like I said before, defect reporting, execution. When do they test? What are their cycles for testing? Does it align with the sprint cycle and the all of the things that occur to get a delivery out or release out? Again, testing approaches, manual, automated, and exploratory testing. If they're doing those, how's it going? Where do they need help? How much of the product is being tested? So test coverage, what does that look like? Is it the right, how much of the product is being tested, and is it effective? Again, defect tracking and dev follow-up. How is that relationship with the dev team, like I had mentioned previously? Teamwork falls into that same thing. And then feedback. So this is important. This is something that I do get when I'm having my Agile coaching sessions with different folks. I think it's always important to get feedback on what those folks need. And, in this case for QA, it would be, are they getting what they need from the developers to test effectively? And how can that be improved if they are not? Okay. Moving right along. We'll move in onto DevOps. This is another critical role or area for the SMERV. First, we'll start with a DevOps manager. So again, these are items you can talk to the DevOps manager about. This is a very interesting area. I've done this myself, and so you can talk to the DevOps manager about, their process. Sometimes people don't realize how the delivery process works at the end of the line, at the end of the value stream. How do things get delivered? So there's a lot to talk about here. And I mentioned some of these, like the pipeline, plan, build, test, deploy, and monitor software. You can also ask them about, hey, how do you guys monitor or manage, servers, networks, their cloud environments, et cetera. Automation and processes to build and deploy. How does that work? What does that look like? What do they use as far as tools? And many times these folks are also involved with security. So you can see some of the items that they might be involved with here to protect the company, access controls, penetration testing, et cetera. Those are items that can be brought up with them. Again, teamwork, dev and DevOps. How are they collaborating to prepare for delivering releases, functionality? What works, what doesn't? How can it be better? And then special instructions. I put this in here. I've seen this myself where there might be specific asks in a delivery by the development team or the product team that need to be included in a release. And if they're missed, then there's people are working weekends sometimes to get it fixed. So again, that kind of goes to the teamwork piece of it, and making sure that everybody is working together to deliver software and also make their lives happier and not work weekends. Continuing with DevOps, so there are the DevOps engineers. Again, these folks are probably more aligned with the Scrum Master role in the day-to-day, so to speak, if you're involved with DevOps at all. But the topics they're really concerned with, in my opinion, that you can chat with them about if you meet with them regularly on the tools and processes they're using, the CI/CD pipeline like I talked about previously. minimizing rollbacks, downtime, etc. What monitoring tools are they using for, I would say, for performance and also security down here as well. So I had mentioned previously access controls and penetration testing. So these folks are on the ground making this stuff happen. And you can always really dig in and see how this is working and help these teams as well as a Scrum Master try to do these things more effectively, perhaps with another set of eyes on it. All right. And of course, you can talk to the development team. Yeah, so you'll obviously talk to the development team, development management. You can approach as a Scrum Master, get an idea of what they're thinking about project timelines. How are team members allocated across teams? That's always a hot topic. And trying to capture capacity for teams and team members. Team engagement and motivation. So, of course, you can talk to development management about this. This can also be a part of maybe team working agreements and how they handle these things. So you can help the development manager with these items, maybe by doing that for his or her team. Agile methodologies, do they understand it? Is there training needed? Do the teams have flexibility to do what they need to do? Can you help out there? Technical debt, are they tracking it? How is it managed? When is it acted upon? Of course, metrics. And then training and career development for the team. I know in my Agile coaching sessions, I do ask about what career aspirations are for team members to try to help them with that. So these are all things you can talk to development management about and add value. The developers, of course, many folks I'm sure on this call are familiar with these items, asking them about, hey, how's a project going? Where are your blockers? How can we help avoid those in the future and solve the immediate ones and provide any support they need? How's the code? What's architecture look like? Are there architectural challenges? Why? What tools are they using? How are they working? And what challenges are there for them? I like this next one in particular, positive team culture. How are they contributing to that? Are they even thinking about that? A lot of times it seems like folks don't even take this into consideration. So I think it's good to kind of bring that out and say, how are you doing to keep morale? What are you doing to keep morale up? And see what the feedback is there and maybe coach them on that as to what they could do. Agile frameworks, how is it working? Do they have questions about that? And then, of course, career goals and aspirations. I do ask about that as well. So again, these are things that you could be talking with the developers about on a regular basis to add value to them and their time at your company. All right, so the benefits unlocked by meeting with the SMERVs, perhaps on a regular basis, to talk about the particular items for each group. You can be like Mario, right, and level up your role, their role. So by doing so, you can ensure that they work together to improve processes and drive better outcomes and value for the customer. Make sure they're aligned with the goals of the product and the goals of the organization, and they're working in a way that does that. Of course, I mentioned delivering high quality products by doing all of these things, working with these teams and helping them as a Scrum Master on the additional topics besides just Scrum. I think this number 5 is really important. So gaining a deep understanding of the user and their needs. I would say that's having to do with the customer, but it's also, I kind of look at this as, hey, getting an understanding of each team member and what their needs are as well. I kind of wrap that into both, or both into that one. More benefits unlocked by having these conversations with these different groups. They can understand how they're part of the Scrum Master's relationship value stream. You probably won't call it that when you talk to them because they'll just roll their eyes, but you can understand how they fit together to deliver value, and perhaps you can increase collaboration and resolve conflicts more effectively if they're talking to each other in kind of a cycle versus in siloed structures. So by talking to them, it would also, they'll learn how to hold themselves accountable for their work. So if you're talking to them on a regular basis and, showing that you care and asking about how they're doing and what they're doing, sometimes that can help people become more accountable for their work, and care more about what they're doing and how it impacts others in the value stream. Of course, they'll gain flexibility and responsiveness, I think, by talking through a lot of these topics that we've talked about previously, making sure that agile ways are working for them or new ways of working are working for them, and if not, why, so they can be more flexible and respond more quickly in their work. And of course, like I'd mentioned before, if you're talking to all these groups about these different topics, or even some of these topics on a regular basis, they're going to feel valued. They're going to feel appreciated and seen. It's amazing what can come out of these conversations and what no one really even knows about until you talk to somebody and how you can help them. So I have found them personally very valuable. And like I said here, you can learn so much more about your company, how it operates. You're increasing your skills as a Scrum Master and Agile coach by growing your knowledge base just across everything that happens at your company in a holistic manner. And you're becoming more valuable to your company by doing all of these things. I think that's a great selling point for trying to do some of these. Okay. So here's in my mind, the completed, whoops. I ruined my own diagram. Here's the completed Scrum Master's relationship value stream in my mind. We filled in the question marks across the bottom here. Remember, we had the arrow, you are here above development before we talked about the rest of the value stream. So in my mind, I think when you look at this, well, let me ask this. I have this huge red dot here, you are here with these arrows. Can anybody tell me why this is so large? Why I made this big?
Someone's attempting to do too much.
I like that.
From a time quantitation in any type of larger project, you will spend more time in relationship management than you will actually performing the work as a Scrum Master.
Okay. What's everybody think about that feedback? I see some chats coming in. Your skill set covers.
Yeah.
So,
I spend more time on relationship building than I do on kind of strictly speaking Scrum Master stuff, which I prefer.
okay.
And
Somebody
also you are the common person talking to everyone on the team.
Okay. And I see in the chat, your skill set covers talking to them all. So all valid points. I don't think anybody's right or wrong. Why I did it here was that by doing at least some of these things that we've mentioned and having some of these conversations with these different groups, you're growing your role, right? You're becoming, instead of the one arrow, you are here, you're just increasing your skill set tremendously as a Scrum Master and Agile coach across all these different disciplines, right? And making yourself more valuable to everyone involved at the company. You're also, making all of those different groups across the value stream there, making them more effective, helping them contribute more effectively, making them hopefully happier in their, helping them be happier in their roles because they're collaborating more with, you know, each other versus in their silos, and delivering, you know, like I said, more value for the customer at the end for what I have here as client requirement delivery. So that's why I made that larger, just because it's such an expansion that's gained by doing so. And there are points, you know, I heard the point where, you know, you're caught up having, you know, conversations all day long and not getting the real work done. And some others preferred those relationships, perhaps versus other things. So it sounds like it's a balance to me, correct? Or right? That's how I'm thinking about it. Okay, let's move along. Let's see. Aha. Whoops. I'm just dragging this down here. So thinking about your own situation again, and the SMERVs that we've talked about, that we identified across the value stream on the slide right before this, who would be the most valuable group for you to speak with tomorrow? And you can grab a dot and vote, or type it in the chat, or just yell it out. Anyway is great. But just thinking about that, like in the topics that we talked about, that you could talk about with each one of these groups, where do you think you would gain the most value, and where would they gain the most value from you doing so? I'll give it a minute. Some for product owner, some for product manager. Nice. There are no wrong answers. It's totally up to your situation, your company, your consulting, your whatever you're doing. Does anybody else have any input that they wanted to share verbally in the chat? Somebody had Sarita had product analyst in the chat. Thank you, Sarita. All right, so we can wrap this one up. So it looks like folks are looking at the product team as the ones perhaps they should be speaking with, and will provide the most value in the short term. That's awesome. Thank you for participating in that. The area I know the least, from Mark. Mark, what is that area?
I have room to grow in DevOps, but always need feedback from product.
Got it. That's awesome. Okay. So some communication tips. So folks are probably wondering, like, hey, how do I get on their calendar? Like, that's a lot of groups, a lot of topics. I think we identified that you have to balance, right? Like, where can you get the most value? Where would they have the most value from you interacting with them? Basically, from my own personal experience, I've just asked them if I can set up time, a recurring time, to talk to them about the aforementioned topics, to build a relationship, to be able to help them to understand their situations. And typically they agree, and find them valuable. So it's a simple approach. You just want to make sure you mention, like I said here, be sure to mention the benefits for both. I would even, you might even want to just err on the side of the benefits for them. What's in it for them? But you will get benefits as well, and so will the team. Communication tips: listen actively. Also be open to feedback. You might hear things that you don't want to hear, or you weren't expecting to hear. That's okay. you know that they are being honest then, and then that's an opportunity to shine, right? You can jump in there and see how that can be handled, fixed, improved. And then work collaboratively, if I can say that word, with any of the SMERVs that you've identified that you want to reach out to, or that you are reaching out to, and help them and become valuable, more valuable for yourself, for the team, for the company. I think we're at the end. We are. Any questions from the group? What are your thoughts? Please share. Is anybody doing this currently? How is it going? Does any plan? It sounds like some people might be planning on doing this.
Spend a lot of my time as a coach in one-on-ones with all of these different people, but I like that you gave a list of things to talk about, because I think sometimes we get into these regular cyclical calendars of biweekly one-on-ones with people. And then sometimes it pops up on your calendar and you're like, oh, I don't even know what I need to talk to you about. It's just on my calendar, right? And then it becomes no more value add. It becomes a waste of time, right? So having a list of these are things I need to check in on, I think is helpful with each of those different groups.
Thank you, Marcy. And that's what I try to do is, when I introduce it, I say, I would like to talk about these things, and anything else like that's going on, anything else you want to talk about, that's priority. So we'll talk about this, so that at least there's some things to like expand their mind when they're seeing the invite. They're like, wow, those are broad. There's a lot to talk about there. So it's hard to not talk about something or anything if there's, a lot of things on the agenda.
Here's the ones I struggle with, Scott. What if there's someone who's in your value stream, but you are not in their value stream, so they don't see the value in talking to you? Because you're not in their value stream, right? They don't care what the Scrum Master thinks about what they're doing, but you need information from them, or you need to have that that exchange with them. A lot of times it's because we need to coach them, right? And
Right.
And they're not even aware that they need coached, right? So how do you wrangle your way into those meetings?
I would say start small.
They're small.
Start small.
Mhm.
Kind of see where they are with how open they are to being approached. Usually you can tell pretty quickly if somebody wants to invest time or not. So you kind of have to gauge that and use your judgment, and then just kind of show value for them in some fashion, and then expand from there. That would be my advice.
I was trying to think of how I've handled that in the past, and I think I've developed a couple of rules over the years and throughout my career, and it's number one, I never try to say the word agile to anyone who is director level or above. They're just not hearing it. All they hear is want, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I try not to even use the word agile. I try to start with, what are your goals or the problems you're trying to solve in your department, and how can I help you, right? I try to start with that, like you said, trying to show what value I can add or bring to them so that they want to continue the one-on-one themselves, and it's not me forcing them into it.
Right.
Not always easy though, right? Because sometimes they're like, I'm not going to tell you what my goals are or what my problems are, because I don't see how you can help me with any of that, or I don't want one more person sticking their nose in my business.
Yeah,
right?
it's none of your business, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
those are great points. Those are excellent points. And I had a thought and it slipped my mind. So I'm reading the chat here. Bob S. I like to start with, I would like to know more about your world. This seems to open a lot of doors.
Good.
That's great. Yeah, it's sometimes a whole session will just be listening.
Mhm.
And that's why I put like the active listening and, be prepared for feedback. Sometimes the folks that you're talking to they need to kind of think through things as they're talking to you, and the whole time is that. And that's fine. That's fine. Mark M has start small is excellent. Here a shared challenge we have, then widen out. Yes, it's great. Did I miss any other chats? I apologize if I did. Sarita had making a bigger impact. I think that's when we were talking about the big red dot. You are here, dot. Okay. Ooh, what's this one up here? From Ken. SM relationship value stream. How do we create a detailed value stream map on a series of relationships? The stream appears to be something similar to a, am I saying this right? Column explosion? I'm not
Mhm.
sure if I'm saying that right. How do we create a detailed value stream map on a series of relationships?
Yeah, Scott, you did say it correctly. Column explosion. It's a nuclear. Think of when neutrons hit some type of atomic cluster and how everything just scatters. Okay.
Okay, got it.
How do you map these relationships, especially if you don't have the relationship to start with, and it might be, you might be placed in a situation where you're not expected to chat with some of these people. You have a W-2 job. My world is 1099 contractor. And most of the time that, whenever I drop in, it's usually because we're fighting fires. And there's already a certain level of distrust of the agile process. So this is, I was just trying to understand, really, I do believe that in some ways, if you have a good, solid corporate understanding of what's attempting to be done, this will work. But I've yet encountered one of those. And I'm just trying to figure out if there is a value to somehow, some method of relationship value stream map at a more detailed level that can help one trod through in order to, find openings, if you will, to talk with others, especially when you have product owners who don't even know they're product owners.
Where does that happen at? Lots of places.
Marcy, you are a coach. You understand me. I'm just a lowly SM. That's all. But I'm tromping through the trenches, trying to figure out how to piece things together and how to understand what was the intended value to the company that was attempted to be created in the first place. And I'm trying to figure that out as I'm parachuting or smoke jumping into the forest fire.
Ken, do you have any, I'll put this back on you. Do you have any suggestions for that situation where you can manage or monitor a value stream in that situation? What would you suggest in that type of situation?
Well, and that's my challenge, Scott, is the fact that I don't see a value stream at that time.
Okay.
I'm in discovery mode. And I'm trying to figure out, based upon what I'm being told by the person paying me or the organization paying me, and then working through what I would call the normal hierarchy in some type of agile operation. And it's an investigative process. It's much easier, and I see the method that you're using here. It's much easier, I would say, if it's a well-defined process that's already in place. And you have these organizational owners that know what they're doing. I just find it a little more challenging sometimes when you have been taught a certain structure in terms of an agile process, or, could be safe or less or whatever,
hmm
but it doesn't appear that everyone's on board. And so I sometimes get called out as being a busybody, someone nosy. What are you doing talking to them? And you
Mm.
have to defend your positions in terms of understanding what's going on so you could create the relationship that can be mapped. So
Okay,
yeah, that's kind of the struggle that I'm in.
got it. So it's more of a, it sounds like it's more of like a, maybe a cultural challenge.
What organization is not a cultural challenge?
So Ken, is it more around an opportunity? Is there an opportunity there to kind of like parallelly show value in small ways like we had talked about, plus some coaching in some in ways, or no?
Yeah, and this is where I have to, this is where I turn to people like Jenny, like Marcy, who are coaches.
Yep.
And say, okay, and generally, hopefully, they also have better access, if you will, to some of the higher level organizations. They would
Got
say,
it.
help me get in here so that we can figure out what value we're bringing to this particular person who supposedly is a member of this team.
Got it.
So, I
Okay.
mean, that's been one of the easy ways in, but if they don't have a coach, then it's just finding, going through and finding the key shareholders or stakeholders, I'm sorry, and identifying who has fundamental power or interest in assisting me.
So more of a stakeholder analysis to see how you can influence. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
Ken, do
Marcy,
you
do you have
think,
a? Yeah, go
I
ahead.
was just thinking, Ken, do you think some of the struggle is similar to what I went through when I was a consultant, right? There's a general distrust of you're a 1099 or you're a consultant. Like you're only talking to me because you're trying to figure out how to get another revenue stream in for your company, right?
Bingo. Well,
And-
that's if someone's intelligent enough to know that. Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of the challenge that you're facing is, they're like, they see you as a car salesman, like, I don't want to talk to you. You're the car salesman. You're just trying to get another contract out
That's
of
a
me.
great analogy. Great
Kind of like
analogy.
stick in your lane, Ken, right? So that's an example there where, I mean, maybe you're just not set up in the right place to even be able to have that values, those relationships, right? Because there's got to be, you've got to establish that trust to be able to build a relationship value stream, right? And so I guess that's the question is you have to not start with the relationships, but start with how do I build trust so that I can then build the relationship, right? And that's an even bigger challenge when you're only there on a 6 or 9 month contract, right?
Yeah, that is a bit of a challenge because sometimes if it's a situation where I cannot go into some of the other areas and talk to people to find out, where they see the value, I literally go back to my sponsor and saying, we're wasting our money. You need another approach.
Right.
And then I'll bow out gracefully.
Yeah. And maybe that's how you gain the trust, right? Is to say, hey, look, you paid me to do this and I can deliver this, but it's not going to add a lot of value unless you give me the empowerment to go talk to this person, and this person,
Well,
then I can build this instead, right? And giving them the choice. No, just stick in your lane, Ken. We paid you $50K to do this. Do it,
yeah, and the situation is, they pay me to be a scrum master / project manager. Oops. And, what they really need is a coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think it's super hard. And I struggled with this. I used to talk to you about this, right? As a contractor to be an agile coach. I struggled with that relationship because a huge part of what I did involved building trust. And there was already a distrust of me because I was a consultant, right? That's why I got out of the consulting game. So yeah, that's a struggle. I don't know anybody else who's a consultant on the
I'd
call.
love to get out of the consulting game at my age. No one wants to
Right.
hire a W-2, you know? How many years experience you got? Almost 50?
Nobody
Well,
wants
no,
to
no,
fund your
thank you.
retirement, Ken, is what you're saying?
I'm sorry.
Nobody wants to fund your retirement?
Hey, Mars, as you know, for the last 20 years, I've been funding it myself.
You've been funding it yourself, right? Yeah, I don't know. Some of the other folks might be consultants and facing that same challenge, right? Because it's a tough gig when you're a consultant, scrum master or coach, especially, and you know, the basics of your bread and butter are about trust and relationships, and you're not even an employee of the company to build all of that, right? It's tough.
Any ideas from the rest of the audience?
That's what I was going to ask. Thanks, Ken.
I am somewhat trained, Scott. Not much, but somewhat.
I love it. Love it.
I'm gonna actually
Crickets.
stop the recording really quick and maybe if I can figure out how. There we go. All right.